Welcome to the program, Global Weekly News, serial number 77. First, we are going to look at the United Nations resolution on ceasefire in Gaza. Since 7th October, Israel is on war with Gaza of Palestine. This war is brutal, barbaric. Israel is committing many war crimes like attacks on hospitals, UN shelters, etc. US imperialism is actively aiding Israel by sending arms and ammunition, etc. On 8th December, UN Secretary General, by invoking Article 99 of the UN Charter, convened the Security Council and proposed a resolution on immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. 13 permanent members of the Security Council voted in favor. England abstained. US vetoed the resolution. The UN General Assembly emergency session was held on 12th December after Egypt and Mauritania invoked Resolution 377A-5 following the failure of UN Security Council. Resolution 377A-5, also known as the Uniting for Peace, was adopted by the General Assembly in November 1950 at the time of Korean War. It provides that if the UN Security Council fails to exercise its primary responsibility for the maintenance of international peace and security, the General Assembly can take up the issue and even send peacekeeping forces. The resolution in UN General Assembly demanded immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. Since 7th October, Israeli forces killed over 18,400 Palestinians, mostly children and women, and have injured over 50,000 others. The resolution also demanded immediate and unconditional release of all hostages. It was adopted with 153 countries, more than three-fourths of the UN members voting in favor, including India, 23 abstentions, and 10 countries, including the US and Israel, voting against the resolution. Though the resolution is only recommendatory and has no legal value, it carries the opinion of the majority of world's countries, and pressure on Israel for a ceasefire has increased manifold. Two amendments by the US and Austria condemning a Palestinian resistance group Hamas attack on Israel on 7th October were rejected. Israel did not bother about a similar UN General Assembly resolution in November. Even now, Israel is not respecting the UN resolution. Even Joe Biden of United States has pointed out the increasing isolation of Israel in the world scenario. On 11th December, massive protests were held in cities all over the world condemning the brutal war of Israel. Second, we are going to see Puma drops Israel. Puma, P-U-M-A. Puma is a German MNC company. It sells textiles and sportswear and shoes, etc. It is like Adidas company. BDS is a movement boycott of Israeli goods, divestment, withdrawal of shares from Israeli companies, and sanctions movement. BDS is a Palestinian movement founded in 2005 July and acting against Israeli Zionism. Since 2018, the BDS movement has been organizing to put pressure on Puma to drop its sponsorship of Israel's national football team and end its complicity in Israeli apartheid. After years of pressure from the BDS movement, which has intensified in recent months, the German company Puma announced on 12th December that it will drop its sponsorship of the Israeli Football Association. This is a victory for BDS movement. Puma stores have been the target of protests in recent weeks, such as a picket line outside of a Boston, capital of Massachusetts of USA, on 8th December, and an occupation of a store by demonstrators in Manchester England on 11th December. Comrades, in Britain, in England, the government of Rishi Sunak is bringing anti-strike bill, and there is a growing resistance to this. Let us look at it. Over the past few years, and especially since 2022, vigorous strike actions have been carried out by unions in major sectors, including in railways, education, health and communications, demanding an effective pay hike to combat the soaring inflation. Following the COVID-19 crisis, cost of living has gone up enormously. The Conservative Party government under Prime Minister Rishi Sunak does not listen to the demands of the trade unions. Instead, the government has resorted to using draconian anti-union, anti-strike measures and various anti-strike laws. The government introduced the controversial strikes bill in the Parliament on 10th January 2023, which enables the state and private employers to force the workers to ensure minimum service during trade union strikes across 8 key sectors, including health, ambulance, fire and rescue, security, education and transport. The bill would empower private bosses to sack the workers, to dismiss the workers who refuse to provide a minimum level of service during walkouts across key sectors, as well as file cases in courts against the trade unions, both to prevent strikes and claim damages. Even though the Labour Party has announced that it will repeal the anti-strike law if it comes to power, many sectors within the trade union movement are suspicious about the promise. Trade unions and left-wing sections in the UK are gearing up to challenge the anti-strike laws of Rishi Sunak government. The Strikes Minimum Service Levels Act 2023, passed on July 20 this year, came into effect in the ambulance service, rail network and border security from December 8. Major trade unions gathered at the special conference of the Trade Union Congress. In England, there is only one central trade union, which is Trade Union Congress. Myself and Comrade Tapan Sen, both of us were in the CIT team visiting England for 3 weeks on the invitation of this TUC in London, and resolved to fight and defeat the anti-strike law. There was a special conference in London on 9th December convened by the Trade Union Congress. The conference called for a major rally to protect the right to strike on 27th January 2024 at Cheltenham. Comrades, in the neighboring country Sri Lanka, there are many custodial deaths taking place, especially this year. On 4th December, scores of Tamils staged a demonstration in Kokkuville over the killing of a 13-year-old Anandadeepan Darsant. The boy was reportedly beaten to death on November 29 after the Sri Lankan police picked him on the allegation of stealing on 16th November. During his funeral rites, outraged locals took to the streets while carrying his coffin to the nearby police station. The protesters, mostly Tamils, demanded justice against police brutality. The boy was beaten to death using a broom and a wicket by the matron of the children's detention center. The custodial killing of the 13-year-old Anandadeepan Darsant cannot be seen as an isolated incident, and it was the third of such killings of detained Tamil people this year. On 19th November, Nagarasa Alex, a 26-year-old Tamil man, was brought dead to the Jaffna Teaching Hospital from prison. He was initially arrested by police on the charges of burglary. On 12th May, A 42-year-old domestic worker was declared dead mysteriously in police custody. R. Rajakumari was arrested after she was accused of stealing a ring. No report was found in the police records regarding her arrest and interrogation. 4 policemen, including sub-inspector from the Velikada police station, were arrested and remanded by the Colombo Chief Magistrates Court. Comrades, in South America, in Peru and Guatemala, there are recent developments. We will see that. First, Peru. In Peru, a South American country, Pedro Castillo was elected as president in 2021 general elections. He was a rural teacher in a primary school and a trade unionist. Pedro Castillo was the president of Peru from 28th July 2021 to 7th December 2022. Pedro Castillo tried to dissolve the parliament on 7th December 2022, where the dominant rightist forces were not allowing him to implement progressive policies. The rightist MPs brought an impeachment motion against Pedro. The motion was passed with a majority. Pedro was immediately arrested and put in prison. The vice president, Dina Boluarte, became the unelected president. Massive protests against the coup and arrest of Pedro took place in the streets. They demanded the resignation of Dina Boluarte and reinstating Pedro as the president. A year has passed since the coup took place against Pedro Castillo. 57 protesters were massacred. Dina Boluarte blamed the protesters themselves for these massacres and said that she prevented 500 violent demonstrations. Without being cowed down by the massacres, the people of Peru continued to oppose Dina Boluarte. On 19th July of this year, tens of thousands of people, workers, peasants, students, indigenous people, social activists and left parties took part in the protest. On 10th April, Dina Boluarte privatized lithium mining to appease the right foreign corporates. The former dictator Alberto Fujimori was released from prison. Protests will increase in the coming period. Then Guatemala. In the South American country Guatemala, elections for the president etc. took place on 25th June this year. In the first round, none of the candidates got 50% votes. Therefore, second round of elections was held on 20th August and Bernardo Arevalo got 61% votes and elected as president. Guatemala's prosecutor's office announced on 8th December that the elections held this year, which saw the victory of progressive Bernardo Arevalo, must be cancelled, must be annulled due to alleged administrative irregularities of the Supreme Electoral Tribunal. In our country, it is known as Election Commission. Arevalo said that this is a coup against him. The President of the Supreme Electoral Tribunal stated on 8th December that there is no way to repeat the elections and that the elected authorities must take office in their respective positions on January 14th and 15th of 2024. Internationally, the move of the prosecutor's office has also been widely condemned by political leaders including Gustavo Petro, Colombian president, Joseph Borrell, the High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, and the Organization of American States. Then we will look into attack on students in Italian university. Police attack on students in Italy. Progressive and anti-fascist groups in Turin, Italy, mobilized to condemn the police action on students at the Einaudi campus of the University of Turin on 5th December, students who had protested the campaigning of right-wing students on the campus were brutally beaten up by a big group of police. The right-wing student group is affiliated to the Giorgia Meloni-led neo-fascist government in Italy. Meloni herself used to be part of a similar far-right youth and student group. Various groups, including the Turin Anti-Fascist Coordination, Communist Youth Front and others, protested the police action on students and also raised their concerns over the increase in far-right activism in and around universities and schools across the country. The far-right groups do hate campaigns. Progressive students groups form an active contingent in the protests and strikes against the anti-worker, neoliberal, imperialist policies of the government. Lastly, we are going to look at the new wave of attacks in Turkey. The board of the Turkish Medical Association was dissolved by a court decision. This is the latest in a long list of repressive acts faced by the organization. Ankara is the capital of Turkey. An Ankara court dissolved the Central Council of the Turkish Medical Association at the end of November. Turkish Medical Association is internationally recognized for its dedication to the right to health and protection of democracy. The court ruled that a board of trustees would be appointed to oversee the election of a new Central Council. The present elected members of the coordinating body are using the time to rally support among other local professional organizations and international networks, warning about the implications of government interference in the work of professional associations on democratic processes in Turkey. The decision to dismiss the Central Council of Medical Association is an attack on democracy, the association had stated. Over the years, the Turkish Medical Association has taken a critical stand towards the Erdogan government, which has led to a crackdown on its activities. In late 2022, the association president was arrested on charges of spreading terrorist propaganda after she called for an independent inquiry into the alleged use of chemical weapons by the Turkish army against the Kurdistan Workers' Party in northern Iraq. The Medical Association has also stood up to the spread of commercialization of healthcare in Turkey and its effects on health workers' rights. On several occasions, the association raised the alarm about a record high number of physicians applying for documents needed for immigration. More than 2,000 doctors had done so in the first half of this year alone. The association was also at the forefront of the response to the earthquake that recently hit Turkey and Syria in February this year, organizing volunteer services. Members of the association went to areas hit by the earthquake, where they were confronted by thousands of casualties, among whom were at least 100 doctors. The court decision was condemned by a number of international health and human rights organizations. 135 organizations in Turkey, in their solidarity statement, had stated that the attack is not only on the association, but also on the public's right to health, the right to organize, and the right to live in peace in a democratic country. Thank you, comrades. This is all Global Weekly News, serial number 77. See you next week. Lal Salam.